And we're live. Yes, that's my most recent one.
Sean Martin. What was the name of the group that he's in?
The Quarantined.
The Quarantines. Yeah, so I finished listening to that, and it was, I called you afterwards, and really it's this principle of um, mind and heart,
Mm.
brain and brawn, which is like everything we talk about with artists is there's just doing it, doing the work, creating the art, and then there's the mindset involved to continue doing the work, to create it and then continue doing it. And you guys talked about that in such
Oh,
a
we've got Duane here actually.
succinct way.
Yeah.
Hey, speaking of artists,
Hi, Duane. How are you?
I'm doing well. It's Erin.
I think we've got a little bit of echo on the line there. Apologies. I'm not sure if you can hear us, but
we troubleshot it this morning, and Duane ended up connecting perfectly. Did you toggle on Riverside like the echo off or the Lance? You,
who, me?
yeah, you can toggle off echo cancellation or
Oh, I
whatever.
see. I
Oh,
see.
okay.
Okay, here we are. So I'll toggle.
Just turn it on for everyone.
Also, Chris, can I take off my earbuds and try it without using them, or should I keep them on like we did before?
I think just keep
No,
them on. It's going to
yeah,
make it
keep them
easier.
on for now.
Okay.
Um,
Okay.
Aaron, can you try muting for a second?
Sure. Okay.
Testing, testing. One, two, three. Yeah, I think I can still
There it
hear.
is. The echo
Yeah.
is on Aaron.
Testing, testing.
You don't have to test
Yeah.
anymore. Aaron's the echo. It's okay. We'll figure it out.
Yeah, that is it. Sorry. Duane, thank you so much for joining us. Erin, apologies that you're just going to have to like toggle when you're on and then toggle off. That's going to be
All
annoying
good.
for you, but you're a soldier. What can I say? You're a survivor. You're a survivor. You're going to survive however the rest of that line
Sure.
goes.
So you know
Uh,
what? We were just talking about mindset and like doing the work, and this is such a perfect segue into this conversation because for viewers and listeners out there, I only met Duane through email several months ago. We did a feature on v13.net, our main website, and then him and I had been going back and forth about setting up a value session, which we did this morning at 9 a.m. our time. 2 hours later, he's joining in because he is like industrious, hardworking, and even at the very young age of 70, he's like, fuck yeah, Chris, I'll jump back on in 2 hours and meet these people I've never seen before, because that is the mindset you need as an artist and a creative to get out there and to push your work and inspire. So thank you, Duane.
yeah.
Thank
Thank
you
you.
for the invitation, everybody.
Yeah, my pleasure. Yeah, really happy to have you on. And I mean, the thing that we have generally is how do we keep ourselves? What topic do we usually talk about? And it usually comes up pretty organically. But I think that mindset's a fantastic place to start. Frankly, I'd actually be really keen to hear a little bit more from yourself, Duane, about what that, where you, some a little bit about your background, and for any new viewers that are watching you today.
Sure. First, I took a quick look at the YouTube link and I see what you guys generally do. And I thought, wow, this is great. It's like coaching for the next level because I'm not quite sure what I'm doing right now. Yeah. So I'm a retired high school teacher. I taught for 30 years. I did 9 years in Japan teaching English, and then 1 year in England as a substitute teacher, traveled around. And then my last 20 years in Vancouver. But I also wrote 3 books for kids about the animals in Stanley Park and had them published, hybrid publishing. So I paid, but she had all these amazing connections. My editor was a retired BBC professor, and I had a professional publicist and amazing artists and a lot of really cool people, and it came together very much the way I wanted. And I was telling Chris I got the idea for the first book, Walking Through Stanley Park, years and decades ago. because I'm old now, decades ago. And but I never did anything about it. It was just an idea. I thought somebody should write a story about the animals in Stanley Park. Why has no one done this? It's so perfect, right? So I did, and I've done 3 now. And it's about a squirrel and a raccoon who go on these big adventures. The first one, they went to Japan. The second one, they go to the secret animal inn below the Sylvia Hotel to solve a mystery. And the third one, those first 2 are chapter books. They're for grades 1 to 3, called starter chapter books. I didn't know that label, but that's what it got labeled. And I did a lot of school visits, got a lot of great feedback, like really incredible feedback, which kept motivating me to keep going. The third one we just did recently, it's a simplified version of the first, because the first is so long, and we put in color illustrations. So for littler kids, age 4 to 6, and we just did that and finalized the cover, I guess, a year or 2 ago, I think, but I haven't really promoted it. So mindset, well, in the beginning, I was highly motivated. I was having a heck of a lot of fun, visiting schools, contacting school districts, book events, festivals, bookstore signings, Indigo books and so on, getting it online. And my publicist at the time, I have to pay him, but it gave me a really good deal. I was interviewed by CBC, early edition one time, on the coast in the afternoon, I think for the first book, one for the second book. I'm a French teacher, so I did Radio Canada once to promote the books. And then there's this morning breakfast show with CTV. It was Canada Day, and I just put out I forget when I did this, but a few years back. Anyway, I was telling them that the song in the book, the first book, is "O Stanley Park" to the tune of "O Canada." And they loved it. They said, come and tell us about your book, and let's hear this song, "O Stanley Park." And what I did was I created the Stanley Park Animals Park Anthem. It's the park anthem.
Duane, you got to stop there. You don't give away the rest. We got to get people to watch the value session.
Okay, all right, sorry. Anyway, yeah, so mindset. So I did a lot, and I'm older now, and I'm a little more tired. And I've noticed with the third book, I am lacking that motivation to get out there and do school visits and do stuff, even though I want to. And why I picked Vision with V13 Media is because I think this story, or maybe combining them, would make a great animated film. I just think it would work so well. There's an imaginary world in there that these animals inhabit, and it goes international. They want to leave Stanley Park, but they end up in Japan, and accidentally. That wasn't their plan. It's an accident. And then they go on this great adventure, and with the help of other animals, and they help them, they have this great time. They learn about others and so on. And I think it's an allegory for life. I really do. We all leave our little safe nest, like they leave the park, and we go on this big life adventure, right? And things happen to us, good and bad. And then we come back and we have a broader view and things to share about our experience. That is what it was for me. So I shared a lot of my own personal experience in a way into a story. So now I'm at the point where, how do I do this? There's a gap. And I know that's healthy. I know if you have a dream or a vision, and there's a gap and you don't quite know what you're doing and you're a little nervous, it takes courage. So you're in the right place. But I also don't have the same get up and go as I used to when I was younger. So there's lots going on here where I have this dream. I think it could work. I feel like, some of those people you see winning an Oscar for something, they say, thank you to the whoever, the producer, whatever, for seeing my vision. Right. I feel that way. I feel there's something here. I'll show you the cover. So this is where the squirrel is serving tea to his friend. His friend is a raccoon, and he's ravenous, and he ate too many berries. So Sammy is serving him tree leaf tea way up in his tree house. Nice. And that's the world that the artist, they gave me 3 artists to pick from. They sent me this as a sketch. And I said to the publisher, that's him. That's the
That's
world I
Duane.
see. That's the guy.
Yeah.
And off we
Let
went.
me, Duane, let me
It's
jump in.
beautiful.
So, you hit the nail on the head earlier when you said that you were looking at our stuff, and this is coaching and education, which is 100% what we're endeavoring to do, is like give as much free information and education to artists and creatives out there, authors, about the industry, what
Okay.
they need to do to get things
Yeah.
out the door, but also mindset, right? So this forum for us is a way to connect with artists like you, give you a
Yeah.
platform to share your story, but then also give all kinds of tidbits and tricks to the people that are watching this stuff, right? The people that
Great. Oh,
are
I see. I see. Yeah,
seeing you.
sure. Okay.
So what's
Yeah.
amazing is we started by talking about mindset, and I think that, and selfishly, the reason you're here is because I thought of Lance, which I'll explain in a second. But
Okay.
it takes so much courage. You just said that, right? It takes to get stuff done, right? You have to believe in yourself and see things through, and that courage and that gap and that thing can sometimes be huge, like your story which you shared with me of, I had an idea in Stanley Park, and then I had an idea in a park in Japan, and that whole multi-year arc is how the book came to be. But then there's also the micro courage of 9 o'clock to 11 o'clock. Sure, I'll finish this interview, and sure, I'll jump on the next one because opportunity arose. And both of those are equally important, and both of them require a similar part of the mind. So thank you for doing that, and showing artists in real time how to do that. Lance, when this opportunity arose, I was like, how cool is it that we can have an author on, and then we can start to pick apart, instead of interviewing, pick apart the process, from author to author. What was it like writing? Where did you find that you got stuck in the process, or maybe the creative flow? What were some of the remedies? Erin can talk to publicity, and your experience, Duane, with publicity of the book. Why don't you give me a question, Lance? Like, what can we ask Duane about writing and authors that'll help the
Yeah.
people we're working with?
That's the thing I wanted to ask right away was that
Sure.
I have to admire the level of like determination that it takes to actually like go ahead and honor something that you have creatively. I know the feeling about something that just will not leave me alone. The idea will just stop. It doesn't stop. I've had ideas that have persisted for literal decades. I may not be, exactly 70, but sometimes I feel as though an idea has had me for as
You
long,
sure
if not
sound
longer.
70 sometimes.
I sure do. Yeah, well, he's not wrong, folks.
You don't right now. Don't worry about it. You don't right
Yeah.
now.
So I have to. I know the feeling where when you have something that just will not quit. It's not going to leave you alone. So why fight it? Why not go ahead and honor it and pay it its due? Um, it is easier than ever, and it's also harder in so many other ways. So because it's so easy, there's so many people that do it. Just in the time that it set that it took me to speak, just there were about 250 new books that just got published on average. I'm obviously like pro-rataing the amounts, but there's something like 15,000 new books every day, 100,000 plus new songs every day. So it can be very daunting. So I actually have to applaud people that actually decide, you know what? I don't care. I'm going to put it out because it's about what's in here, and it just cannot. It can't fester in here. It has to be. Bleh. I got to get it out of me. So that said, when you were starting out, my
Yes.
question is that how did you even begin to look around? I mean, if it is as simple as I googled need book a publicist, what's a good book publicist? That's fine, but I just want to understand how did you even begin to have those inroads of research and looking and seeing what your initial steps are.
Okay. Yeah. Well, in Japan, once I had done the first draft of the story, it took me about 6 weeks. I knew it wasn't, perfect. I wasn't a writer yet, but I knew I had something there, and it was a niche and unique. So there was an English magazine for foreigners in Japan. I used to pick it up. I think it came out monthly. I can't recall. It was many years ago. And in the back, there was actually one of those self-publishing companies from England, Minerva Press. So I contacted them, and that was the very first thing I did. I was still in Japan. I didn't have any connections related to publishing in Vancouver yet. And ended up paying a fee, and they did do the book, but not exactly what I wanted. We had a slightly different title. I didn't really like it that much, but I went with that. But and they sent, and I paid for some copies, and they sent me. But when I got to Vancouver, I knew that wasn't the book I wanted. So I started looking around, and I found the Canadian Writer's Guide. I was talking to people, so it's really good just to put the idea out there to everybody you know if it comes up in conversation or you want to initiate it. So somebody said to me, you need to get a hold of the Canadian Writer's Guide, very, very thick book. So I did. I read through the first half, which is the writing process. I thought, well, I've done that, how to get motivated and pick topics and so on. The latter half is all about who accepts manuscripts. So I found the children's section, and they tell you what to do. Do a SASE, a self-addressed envelope, and so on, and send the manuscript and a cover letter. And I think I picked 10. A lot of them were local, Tradewin books, Banyan books. I can't remember now, it was a while ago, but I think I did 10. And I got a lot of wonderful feedback, which you do, but all rejections. But that didn't deter me, because I knew that people like J.K. Rowling, I think she had 100 rejections, and many people do, right? Yeah. So, and they had a lot of praise for the idea. Wow, Stanley Park, you're right. Nobody's done this. We love it, but we're not doing this type of book this year, blah, blah, blah. So I kept looking, and then I went online, as you say, Googling, whatever we called it at that time, and I found Granville Island Publishing. And it was sort of it's self-publishing, but it's a hybrid, because she does have all these connections. So you get the quality editing and publicity and so on. She has all these connections, but you pay a fee. So you have a lot of input. Mm-hmm. And in this, you are the final decision maker. Whereas I pretty much understood with commercial publishing generally, you have very little choice about what the cover will look like. You receive a very small amount when a book sells, right? They take most of it, and they just sort of take control because they're the professionals. So
it's their release at the end of the day. You're the author, but it's their book. It's their publication. If they decide, do you know what? We're not going to do this. They won't. It's as simple as that. So
that's what I thought.
And this is it, is that the issue, and not to cut you off, but I am, because this is a couple of very important points and themes. So first of all, Minerva Press I did a little bit of Googling in the background. That actually originally was like a 19th century publishing house of like old school Gothic and whatnot. But these days, the one you're talking about is actually Minerva, which is an imprint of Astra Publishing House. So that was the previous one that you had done previously. And so then this next one, Granville Island, it's a hybrid model. Now, for people that are not familiar with a hybrid model, it's a very emotionally charged subject for a lot of people. Because, bear with me just one moment here, I have my kid homesick, so this is the mindset.
It's okay, I can jump in. It's emotionally charged in the sense that it's like the music industry. There's a lot of people that feel like, I have finished my work. Now, where's the team to take it and do the rest of this stuff? Right. Which we don't agree with. You can't just say, oh, the album's finished, piss off. I'm going to piss off and let someone else handle it. You have to stay involved. You have to know the industry, learn these things. And the more you can do yourself, the more you know yourself, the better for your success. You're not going to get screwed over, etc. With hybrid, there's a pay to play, which I do believe in. I do think that the industries should be more service based, meaning don't say, hey, record label, you go and do the work. I'm going to just sit back. Pay for services, pay for a team that can genuinely help and genuinely provide results, so that when that thing blows up, if you genuinely believe in it and it's quality product, you're the one that benefits from it financially, not someone else. You don't lose your IP, you don't lose copyright, you don't lose revenues and streams. But unfortunately, there are so many people in this industry that are not like that. And I think to reference the podcast with Sean Martin, Lance, that you had earlier on Make Break, he said there's like, he's of the opinion that there's 50% of the industry that's just out to screw you no matter what. And so some hybrids are like that, where they'll, profess to do all this stuff. They won't do the stuff. They'll take your money and that's it. But there are examples of hybrids that are not that, that'll actually do solid work and publicity and promotion. And that's the pay to play that I think makes sense. I don't know where your question was going, Lance. Hopefully I've bought you enough time to stall with the kid. And if not, just face push him out of the way and get back to
Yeah,
work.
I definitely want to at times. What's really important is like you understand like life is going to find a way to just like mess with you no matter what. And so whatever model that we talk about, whether it's traditional, hybrid, self, or vanity press, which is the number one thing that is the problem, because every creative industry has sharks in it. And so the ones that we're talking about are it's funny because in music everybody's a shark.
Oh,
Like, big one, the majors, doesn't matter, like a lot of it, no small a share of indies, like there are crooked deals and crooks afoot everywhere. In publishing, the
I
traditional,
guess that's
like,
why you hear a lot of singers saying when they're accepting awards how difficult the industry can be in
yeah,
music,
they're
right? We
they're they're
always hear
saying it
that.
lightly because everyone's always, whitewashing whatever they're saying so that they don't get
Sued.
blackballed, or yeah, that, and also just like because otherwise they come off like they're the ones that are angry when in fact everyone absolutely is angry. They're just all afraid to say it at the same time.
Okay. Yeah.
And that's the point, is that there's not much of a union of people doing things within the music industry because everyone's a dime a dozen, and now that's even more dime a dozen because AI. But
Yeah.
with writing, it's much more of an individual thing. Not a whole lot of live performance of books going on there. So it's not really a thing. It's a bit of a different industry. What I will say is that hybrid. There are some people that will swear up and down that it's like the new vanity press, essentially. To which I say that that's absolutely not the case at all. But I understand their concerns because basically, how the old model used to work is we take on all the risk, we call all the shots. We, like, as a publishing house, we take on all the shots, we take on all the risk, and but we are going to call all the shots. And people want how things used to be right now because people want to do their creative venture without having to do a day job. And unfortunately, no one is realizing like that is not a thing. And it's not just because of these different models, it's because cost of living is completely insurmountable for people. So, like, you and I can't just, Aaron and me and Chris, we can't just have hobbies. We have to monetize them. We have to put them on socials, and we have to make them make money for us, and they have to do things. It's the exact same way for creatives in every industry that they are in, respectively. Not just
Could I jump in for a
musicians,
second?
but also authors as well. Yes, now you can.
Well, I just have a point here, and then we can pass it back to Duane and just kind of progress this conversation, which I think is super relevant. Is Duane, why don't you talk to us about your experience with the hybrid model? Because we are of the opinion, and I've heard this on my podcast from numerous artists, that if you're not willing to invest in yourself, how can you expect other people to invest in you? There's this idea of the album's done, I'm not putting any money into marketing and publicity and blah, 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 which to me is ludicrous. Like, I have a podcast. If someone came to me and said, I want to help, I want to be part of this team, I would say, hell yeah. If I had extra liquidity and I could hire an extra Erin, I would say 100%. I would love someone to go and pitch this and whatnot, because that's how I'll grow through the teamwork. I'm willing to put money towards that. Why don't you tell us about your experience with that philosophy, that mindset, but then also the experience of actually working with these guys?
Okay. First of all, about contacting 10 commercial publishers, I could have gone to 100 like other people. I didn't want to do it. I was busy teaching, and I just made that call and found her company. I loved the fact that she was on Gravel Island in this funky office, had a great interview with her. And then off we went. And I knew, initially I didn't know the different terms, for, vanity, self-publishing, hybrid, commercial. I thought it was vanity press, and I knew it had a negative image, and I couldn't understand why. Because with films, you have those indies, independent films. Well, they're not with some big film company, and they're out there getting their funding and paying for it and putting it in. Why can't someone who has an idea for a book that people might like also be viewed the same way? This negativity around not doing it through a commercial route that I felt existed. I don't know about now, but at that time. So for me, it was a wonderful experience. I spent a lot of money. Initially, there were different payments. So the fee for taking on the project, and the contract. And I hope this does help people, by the way. I see how I can get coaching out of our conversation today, and other people who are watching or listening, right? And I just to an aside, on my Facebook page, Duane Lawrence Books, I did this. I did 10 posts on my process for writing, because many people ask me at book events, how did you get started? I've always had an idea for a book. So I put 10 posts on what I did and exactly what we're talking about, why I chose hybrid, what they did for me, etc. So so that's there for people to see. And then a couple of those posts I paid to have ads to go out, and literally like 1,000 something, 100, 200, 300 people liked those posts. So there's people out there who want to do books, I guess, right? So for me, initially, when she told me she liked the idea very much, she liked what I'd done, but she thought I needed to work with an editor. So we got this David Stevens. I think he's retired long now. I don't think he does even this kind of work editing. And he was a retired English professor. And it was a little tough. I don't know about people writing. My ego said, this is pretty good. It just needs some tweaking around the edges. He said, we're going to go chapter by chapter. And he said, there's too much narration. You need more dialogue. And I thought, no, it's kind of perfect. So I was very resistant to the coaching in the beginning, to be honest. But once he did that, of course I could see it like I talk this way, too much context, 3 paragraphs of background narration. And then finally the animals say something.
Duane,
So
let me jump in for a quick second, just because that is such an important point, and I want you to go back to your flow, but I want to highlight the fact that so many of us, ourselves included as entrepreneurs, there is, I know it better. I know what I'm doing. People are resistant to help and change. And I remember being a kid, and I'd finish an essay and I'd be so proud of the essay. And then my parents would be like, this is garbage. You need to read. And there was this whole
they didn't
feeling.
say that.
No. I'm paraphrasing for emphasis, but there was this whole feeling of like, ugh, now I have to do more work. I just want to go outside and play. You have to let go of that. You have to understand that the writing process, the creative process, the performance process, all of it is just as good as it is until you get feedback and you reiterate and you keep going. You have to be open to constant change. And we've seen it. We're working on half a dozen manuscripts right now, and every single one of them needed a pile of work. And that doesn't mean that they're bad. In fact, they're all great. That's why we're working on them. But they still need more stuff. So please keep going. But amazing point.
Okay, good. It is so true. It's a cliche, but we need to be lifelong learners. It's the way to go. There's always another level. I remember I could swim. When I was in Japan, I took swimming lessons. What a difference that made. But I was already a swimmer. I just you do your stroke like this, try this. It'll make you flow better. Wow. Skiing. I've been skiing since I was a kid. One Christmas, went up to the ski hill. I said, I can ski. I'm going to pay you. Can you watch me go down and just give me some tips? Got to the bottom of the hill. Guy said, yeah, you can ski. You know what? This will help your flow. Do this with your knees. Point more forward. Amazing difference in my skiing. So the kind of arrogance we have about stuff, a lot of people, like you say, right? And I had that with the book. Well, this story's okay. He just needs to tweak it. It wasn't true. Work was needed in it. I wasn't a writer. So I think like even now at 70, you got to get over your ego. Like there are things to learn. So we're all coaching each other through life in a way, I think, right?
100%.
So
we touched on that briefly this morning on our value session, where we talked about this concept of the I and the we, but remove the me. It's very important to like be confident, but not so confident that everything is about me. Be open to the we, because that's where you're going to find all the feedback and cool
Yeah.
guidance and pivots that make the I better.
Yes.
Keep going though with your experience on,
That
yeah,
teamwork in any project. That's why the Japanese economy could go from post-war collapse to the world's second greatest economy because of the level of teamwork that they do, right? That collectivity.
yeah,
And I agree. Any project you take on, if you're willing to be coached and work as a team, amazing things develop that you never saw, right? So this is what occurred. So David was just amazing with me, working on dialogue and stuff, and changing wording and things like that. And then we found the artist. As I told you, I picked Gordon Clover because he saw the world. I mean, literally, it shocked me. I thought, that's what I see. That's that picture cover I just showed you. And every single sketch after that was really, really close to what I saw. I thought, this guy, he's an artist, right? He has a great imagination, and he was stepping into my world, but altering it a bit in his own unique way. So that was great. We worked on that. Many redos. I've given school visits. I went to one school in Burnaby years ago, and these were kids who were, it was an alternate school. They had issues with writing and things like that, and a little bit of negativity going on there. So they asked me to talk about the writing process, right? So I showed them, the copies I made in my book where there's all these red lines crossed out and things that David told me and additions and changes and constant. I had a stack like this of different, because I like to work on paper. We would do this via the internet and email, but I wanted to print it out when I was working on it. Just works better for me. So the kids, it seemed to motivate them. I said, it's never perfect. I said, you look at, so you can go to the British Museum and look at certain British writers, and you'll see, chicken scratching all over the manuscript. I couldn't believe it, right? Some of these famous classical writers that we read their work, it was just, oh, everybody needs to work hard at this, right? So that helped a lot. I found myself really getting engaged when, like you said, Chris, when I gave up the me and saw the we in it. I mean, it is my project, obviously, but I was relying on them to help me, like the ski coach and the person giving me swimming lessons. I could see there are things for me to learn here. So
so
that was the whole process.
as a writer, I apologize. I'm definitely not trying to cut you off. Sometimes we have lags in the line and whatnot. As a writer, you started this process, you remained open, you did so much stuff on your own, like research and trying to find the right person, and eventually you got paired with a team, you got paired with editor, you got paired with a designer or an illustrator.
Right.
Were there any parts of the process for you that you got stuck on where you're like, I don't know where to go, or I'm at an impasse? And then if so, like, how did you resolve that?
Yes, like I said, there was too much narration, according to David, and Joe, the publisher, she agreed. So it was getting that going. Well, how do I turn that into dialogue? What do I have them say? And I haven't written books before, so there's a bit of that. So David would give me some suggestions. He'd send an email and he'd say, "Well, what about this? Something like this." So we'd work with that back and forth, and then, but I had to make it my own, obviously, right? It couldn't be his writing. So that helped a lot. That was very engaging for me. It got exciting in a way, this back and forth. Initially, I was very resistant to it. But it actually got really interesting to me to have this person want to engage with me so much on my work, We did a lot of that to the point where when it came time to do the second book, which is also very fun for me, the editor, I can't remember if it was David then, but I think it was. And they said, there's very little I need to tell you now. So you see that original coaching for the first book, he did have some suggestions, of course, but he said, you've nailed it. This dialogue, this witty dialogue, and then the background, and then back to the dialogue, and you have to keep it action going. The arc has to progress somewhere. And in the first story, and there has to be a problem to resolve, right? Otherwise, it's not a story. It's just people sitting in space doing nothing, you know. And that's the problem with the first book. Too much background narration about what the day was like, what their personalities were like. Not enough was happening, you know. So uh, that really helped a lot. Does that answer your question, or am I rattling on too much?
No. That answers the question well. I'm going with the flow too. You in life, we mentioned this earlier, micro macro.
Yeah.
All you can do is pivot, and it took me a lot of hardship and work and self exploration and therapy to realize that in every moment I have a choice. And life will constantly pull our attention and our emotions in a certain
Yes.
direction.
Right.
And we have to take a breath, and instead of reacting or responding, just solve. There was I've referenced this Navy SEAL before, and I really need to figure out who it is and look it up so that I'm not saying this random one. But he got into business after leaving the military, and then his business and where he succeeded was he started to just tell businesses that there's no emergency. There's just varying degrees of task. And if you start to frame everything that way, then you don't get into a mindset where you're fight or flight or freaking out. And it's just this problem is this size and there are 2 steps. This problem is this size and there are 20 steps, you know.
Yes.
That's it.
Take
I bring this
action.
up 100%.
Take
I
action.
bring this up now because Lance is messaging me and he's like, you know, his son is at home sick. The son's hysterical. He's
Oh,
obviously upset. And as a father, you want to be there, but he's also committed to this. In those moments, it's okay. You know, remove the stress, remove the judgment. So you can't be on this, and maybe optically it's not as good because we don't have him on the camera or whatever, but the priority is your son, the priority is family. And Erin and I simply carry on with you, Duane, in the best capacity that we can. And this is
yes.
one of those examples in the moment of what you're doing as a writer as well, where you make a choice when someone says, you know what, you need so much more dialogue.
Yep.
You could take it personally and be offended and say, fuck this, what did this guy know? I'm not going to listen to this. Or you could say, interesting, tell me more, why?
That's
And then
right.
you
Be
go.
willing to take the coaching is how I would put
Yeah.
it. Be willing,
Hun-
because there's so much available when you do that. Otherwise, you're frozen. You're kind of, you have a viewpoint or perspective. It's frozen. There's no, and life isn't over. The river of time, the river of life is flowing onward all the time, right? So if you try to freeze frame it, and I just say that from experience, I'm sure you'll all agree, right? Like, oh, I now know this. No, you don't. You know for that moment in time, and then time moves on, and there are other, you know, decisions and actions to take. I totally agree. So even now, you know, I was a little nervous about being interviewed by you. I didn't know what to say. I wanted to sound good, look good. And then you asked me to do the 11 o'clock thing. Again, it's new to me, but I know from experience that when I'm uncomfortable, but I have a goal. It's just important to keep moving, keep acting forward. Don't freeze, you know. And I do this with my students in high school. You know, they're worried about being embarrassed, making a mistake in front of all their peers. And I will say, you know, growth and development it's where the discomfort is. When you step out, you'll feel so much better about yourself when you take that risk. So you're going to feel the fear, but do it anyway, right?
100%. Yeah, I love that sentiment so much, Duane. I've used this analogy before. And for me, ironically, shout out to the Salvation Army thrift store in North Vancouver. I found this there one day. If it doesn't challenge you, it won't change you.
Yeah,
And I mean, I already felt that way, but this thing became a constant reminder, which led me to this idea of, you know, the diamond, right? Diamonds are created under immense pressure. And then I started to listen to that Navy SEAL and all these other guys in the back of my mind and realize that stress and pressure are very different. Where stress is you allowing this negativity in, it's you internalizing and turning it into something negative, and it just ruins you, it kills you. Pressure is when you don't put any emotion on that outside force and you don't let it in, but you acknowledge it and you feel it. And much like the anger that you and I talked about, you leverage that
Yes.
into something constructive and positive
Yes.
and calm, not negative and destructive and noisy and loud. So I think pressure is so important, and it's a wonderful thing, but don't let it in.
I As is balance. Balance. Like what
Yeah.
comes to mind for me when you said that is, everything in moderation. I often repeat that to myself, especially as I'm aging. I do want to challenge myself, but I have a aging physical body. I mean, I'm in pretty good shape. My doctor says pretty good shape for my age, right? But the truth is, I couldn't pressure myself too much. It may cause a problem. Whereas I
Mm,
could have much more when I was younger. Take way more pressure. So there's that for me as well. Take those risks, be uncomfortable. If you want to, you don't have to. Like whoever's watching this, on YouTube or whatever, it's up to you to make that choice. But yes, growth will cause discomfort and courage. And if you're willing, like you say, to take that pressure and learn from it, and you'll get to a new plateau and feel good and relaxed again. And then it's your choice whether you do it again or not, right? I want to learn some
yeah.
more. There will be discomfort. You move on or you don't. But I have to remind myself everything in moderation with wine, with coffee, with even this project now with the books. Like I'm thinking,
Yeah.
should I be doing, if people, should I be doing more school visits? Should I be doing more festivals where you pay a fee and set up a table? Should I be more out there? Yes and no. If it's making me tired, then I need to kind of take care of myself, right?
Yeah.
So,
Well, that's a good point as well, Duane, that it's all subjective, right? Like, I'm not saying that if you don't hit like X mark on the performance level that you're not succeeding. You have to succeed based on your capabilities, but based on your limitations. And then over time, your threshold of that pressure will rise naturally and you'll be able
right,
to take on more.
very
Some
good,
people, some entrepreneurs that I envy and admire, can do 4 hours of sleep and literally the rest of the time they're grinding 7 days a week. Personally, I like that. I could probably do that, but I'm trying to factor in my health. I'm trying to factor in my family, making sure my kids have the right amount of time with me. So my balance is different for me than it would be, for someone else that maybe doesn't have kids or family, etc.
yeah.
And that's another thing is just being comfortable in the discomfort. I feel like the more people allow themselves to get comfortable being uncomfortable, the greater the chances they have at success. And when I was younger, I was very bullish. Like my friends will attest to this. I was really loud and in your face. But for me, that was partly because of parts of me that hadn't healed, that I wasn't really like aware of enough. But it was also a way to really like weed out fake people. And because of that, I have some friends in my life that I've had for 20 to 25 plus years because we established bonds really quickly because it was like, oh, I this guy's a pain in the ass and he's loud, but I also know that he's genuine, he's
Yes.
loving, and I see what I get. And so I love to do that now still, which is why this is a perfect segue to me forcing Erin to start talking because
I
she
was
has
I was
shown
wondering.
Erin.
Has she got her mic fixed now or what?
No,
Well, let's hope
she'll
so.
talk in a second. Erin, before you say anything, and I think this is a really good point in our call to kind of pivot and talk about PR a little bit before we maybe start to wrap up, because Lord knows
Right.
what world Lance is in right now. Erin has done a phenomenal job in the time that I've known her, which is about 3 years now. She's done a phenomenal job of growing. She is a different woman today than she was 3 years ago. She's actually taught me about myself and she's helped me become a better leader because she found the guts in herself to start giving me feedback. And there was a lot of emotion at times. There was a lot of learning and growth together, but it's so valuable to our future selves to be open and receptive to that.
Yeah.
And I think that, Erin, there's still so much room for growth for all of us, but you have just the arc in 3 years has been so fast and so big, and I will continue to bully you to talk more and to find the confidence in doing so because you're very smart, you're fun to be around, and your personality is charming. So go.
Yeah. I think what you said there is pretty nail on the head about like in terms of authenticity as well. it's a matter of, if you can't, express what needs to be like brought across, without fear of it, being taken wrong, or, someone getting defensive about it, then, you might be essentially like what it boils down to is like in order to, grow and develop, and and it's sort of like iron sharpens iron kind of way. It's like imperative to like be open, understanding, self-aware, and be able to have like difficult conversations. I think that might have been like what you were kind of alluding to there, Chris, to some degree, right?
Yeah, I think that's one of the things I really try to do with the podcast with Heart Dealer is to normalize conversation, because we as a society have been pushed into this spot now where everything offends us, and so we're canceling everything. Everything is opinionated because there's only a left and a right, and we are weak if, like, for example, as a man, you're weak if you have emotions. It's there's just so many things applied to everyone, and that's not the case. Growing up, it was about character. Growing up, it was like, I don't care if my neighbor votes blue or red. I'm still going to have dinner with them because they make amazing lasagna and we talk about sports together. Like, it doesn't matter. And the same thing applies to our emotions and our feelings. Erin, you mess this up, you got to do it better. That's not a bad thing. The approach is wrong. Hey, let's talk about, ways in which we can improve upon this thing together. Very different. Same message, very different. I'm upset about something. I'm angered by it. You offended me. How am I supposed to change and know unless you tell me that I did that? And so that's one of the things that I think, Erin, you've been doing really well at is just being direct with that. Duane, like, what do you think? And it sounds like you've been in and around a culture that's been very direct as well.
Uh, well, yes and no. I had a very direct mother, so smart lady, but if she emotional, so if she was mad, she was mad. If she was loving, she was loving. So you always knew very clearly where you stood. Um, so yeah, I was around that kind of directness. My father was more reserved, and they were married for 71 years. That's a long time, and they both passed away in their 90s, about 5 weeks apart. Um, and he said to me once, he said, "Your mother's an emotional person." And he said, "I've been married to her for a long time." And he said, "So if we get into a discussion, it gets heated." He said, I tend to kind of pull back. He said, "Because that's what I've learned. So it's this balancing act. You're talking about each other and getting annoyed and so on. I do agree with you. If it's important, that's an important relationship, or you guys are up to something big as well, you have to express yourself. But like you said, Chris, there's a way to do it. There's a way. And you also look at the other person's personality, age, and so on as well when you're expressing stuff. Now, am I perfect at that? No. In fact, I remember getting mad at my mom probably 2 weeks before she died, and I didn't know she was about to die. Right. And so there's that little, gee, why did I say that? I mean, we
Yeah.
apologize to each other, but so nothing's perfect.
Mm-hmm.
But I agree. If that relationship is important to you out of love, family, friendship, or you're up to something big together, you do have to express those things.
Yeah, it's funny because, like, as I sit here saying this out loud and reflecting on it, I'm going back to the pressure stress thing where if it's someone that's just a random on the street and they're being rude to you, you don't have to internalize that. You can choose to ignore that. You can choose to walk away and say, thank you for your opinion, but I'm not going to spend my energy on it. The reason why Erin and I are so, firm with each other and share things so openly is because we are good friends. We love each other, and we're also colleagues, and we're trying to like build something special here.
Yeah.
Why don't you talk to us? Let's wrap up, like I said, with some publicity, because that's what Erin does. She's
Thank you. Yeah, I'm willing to take the coaching, and I imagine the people out there are as well.
she's doing a great job. She's learning, she's growing. She's been kind of like a jack of all trades for us, with a focus on publicity and marketing, and now she's connecting with the industry more, kind of doing her own interviews of sorts with other publicists. this AMA is for me, it's for the community, it's for artists, but in many ways there are micro things as well. Like this is for Erin to get comfortable being seen and heard and being on video, which so many people can't do. I mean, like some people don't even aren't even comfortable ordering a pizza, you know what I mean, because of the phone etiquette. So Erin, Duane, why don't you guys talk a little bit about publicity? Maybe Duane, you could kick us off by telling us what your experience was like with this book or the book series.
To do those interviews, as you can imagine, I was quite nervous. CBC twice on those talk shows and the French show and the CTV. But I just felt, and even with you, Chris, to be honest, this is publicity, right? When we talked at 9 and now at 11, I was nervous. I was telling
Is it
friends
because I'm
last night.
so rude and impersonable?
Yeah, that's what it was. No, it was just, it was the unknown. I hadn't done this before. So every time you step into the unknown, that's where you got to go for something new to develop. It's the unknown. Otherwise, you're repeating the past, right?
Of course.
Yeah, I was nervous, but I just said to myself, be yourself, and you know what your vision is. I've had part of it is all the feedback I got, Erin, from the students, the schools. I got in this list of 100 recommended books for kids by the British Columbia Teachers Federation. So with that support backing me up, it was like, I think I've got something good here. So that helped a lot to keep me moving forward, right? And so when I do get nervous, there's rated publicity or whatever, I just tell myself that stay committed to your goal, and you feel a certain way, and it's like getting in the cold water, jumping into the cold water in the pool. Eventually it warms up, right?
Of course. Right. Yeah, it's oh, go ahead. Sorry.
Well, I don't know a lot about publicity. I've hired Jay Lang helped me actually recently. I don't know if you know her, Chris. I don't know if
We
you
know
know
her.
her, Erin. Yeah,
Yep.
she helped me for a week. I paid a fee. She was amazing. Contacted a bunch of colleges and universities, told them about my book. Said I may be contacted in the fall to come and talk about writing, how I did it, like you've asked me. Also contacted all these bookstores in Vancouver Island for me. Contacted you, Chris, right? Introduced us. I'm going to have her do something again. I haven't decided yet. I told her I don't know what it is I want yet, but contacting her. But it's all kind of, because I want to take it to the next level, Erin, it's all kind of unknown to me.
Right.
You know what I'm
Right.
saying?
Of course. Yeah, that makes perfect sense because like as you continue to go along through this journey, like everything is new until it isn't. You know what I mean?
Yeah. That's it.
Like yeah, like of course like there's going to be like your first time for experiencing everything, and then as you kind of like repeatedly do it or repeatedly get exposed to newer things, like the older sort of like eventually I guess you'll get to a point where it's just like, oh yeah, interviews are easy, like you've just done it and built up the muscle enough times, right? That you kind of know what your talking points are and you're like comfortable with it, and like what it is that you need to get across and how to like carry yourself, right? But yeah, it like everything, like you put the reps in and it gets easier over time, right?
Yeah. Can I share one experience with you guys before we go? You know how they say
Sure.
public speaking? Public speaking is most people's worst fear. Like the joke that when you're at a funeral, you'd rather be in the box than giving a eulogy. Well, I was I was like that. That's the kind of personality I had when I was young. So I knew I had a fairly good brain, but I was a little bit shy about talking to groups. So I quit university a couple of times actually, because you had to give presentations in these seminars, these groups of 12 to 15 people. Terrified me. I'm from a small town. I thought, what do I have to say, this hick from this small town, with these other kids who seem to be so worldly? So I quit, and then I did this course. It doesn't exist anymore, called the life. What's it called? The life. S training. So I did it, and they said, make a distinct in the course. We can a distinction between your mind and yourself. So your mind is chattering away. Make a distinction. So I got the message. I thought, oh, okay, I listened to myself too much, this internal negativity. So I went back to college, and I had to give a presentation. Of course, it was my turn. 30 students in this small class, Langara College, in the evening. I practiced, prepared, I'd written it up, practiced at home. Got there, and you know those lectern stands you put your papers on? So she said, oh, Duane, would you go up? Go ahead, please. Instructors at the back, everybody's waiting, they're all kind of getting comfortable. I get to the front, and I said to myself, I can't move, to put the papers on the lectern, the stand. And then, fortunately, I said to myself, none of them know this is going on. I said, oh, I get it. I'm terrified. Thanks for sharing that. And then I put the papers on the stand and started speaking. Well, in 5 minutes, all the fear is gone. I'm having fun because I practiced, right? Broke through the fear. Now I could see the nervousness of other people waiting to do their turn because I didn't have the intention of myself. I could see somebody else kind of looking at, they're listening, but they're looking at their notes. They look a little nervous. Other people look interested, what I'm saying. Other people a little bored. The teacher's marking. I thought, wow. So I ended up being a teacher. You're in front of people all the time, right? Had I
Yeah.
not, yeah, had I not had that insight at that moment, I don't know where I would be, you know?
That's such a beautiful lesson. And you know what? It ties back to the micro macro that we were talking about earlier, because everything's subjective.
Yeah.
And it's funny because I am so comfortable on podcasts and being on video now, but I can remember a time when video calls started to be a thing where I felt uncomfortable and weird because it's new and there's no person in front of me. The concept of lecturing in front of 100 people, 1,000 people, that doesn't bother me. But you know what does still give me the fear sometimes, maybe because I'm not used to it yet?
Yeah.
When I'm standing in front of Walmart and I'm going person to person to person saying like, hey, my name is Chris and this is what I do, and grab a flyer. And then they say no, or I'm not interested. That is difficult for me. Some people, that's the easiest thing in the world. But if you ask them to get up in front of 1,000 people, they're like you said, no way, this is terrifying. The only way through either one of those is just by doing it.
That's it.
Aaron,
Action.
100%. Aaron, like what's
Absolutely.
your take on that to wrap up? Because you're a relatively shy person, but
Yeah.
you're less shy now than you were before. And
Oh,
literally,
yeah.
you love publicity, and your job is to talk to people all day long. So why don't you give us your take?
I think there's like an innate irony in that, actually. Just, I guess, like in the sense of like the only way through out is through. But I think that's interesting that we all have different strengths and weaknesses when it comes to things like that. Because like I totally understand what you're saying, Chris. Where it's just like you have no way of knowing what a crowd is thinking en masse when you're speaking to them, but when you're doing one-to-one handing out flyers, that's an immediate rejection, right? So
Right.
that I can understand how that's
Right.
difficult to process. But to sort of like try to answer your question, like I think just doing the hard thing, whatever that hard thing is going to be difficult initially, but you kind of have to like get through that initial roadblock. But once you're in it, you'll be fine. Like what you mentioned there, where it's like once you got about like a few minutes into your presentation,
Yeah.
like things started to level out. That.
And that can go
Uh,
so far. There's a
mhm.
point in Japan where I was asked to speak to a group of seniors, 250 seniors, a paid fee about my experience as a Canadian in Japan at a community center and in Japanese. Now, I had a lot of help from my colleague who's an English teacher and he's native Japanese. He helped me compose the Japanese. But I remember while I'm talking, you know what? I remember saying to myself, I'm not recognizable to myself right now. I'm speaking a foreign language to a large group of people, and I'm having fun. I do not recognize my old self. And it was just like this massive adventurous feeling, stepping out like surfing on a wave or something. So, but you have to feel the fear to get on that wave. That's the
Yeah.
thing, right?
I think what you're bringing up there is very interesting because like they do say that a lot with like coaching and therapy and whatnot, where it's just like to detach yourself from what you're thinking. You don't think that like I'm nervous, like I'm experiencing nervous thoughts,
Yeah.
right? Just that
Yes.
level of
Yes.
separation sometimes is enough.
Yes.
But like
Yeah.
what you said there, it's just like another thing is just like nerves and excitement. Like I think the way that it works neurochemically is like extremely similar. So another mindset shift that you sort of like brought out there is just like I'm not afraid right now. I'm actually excited. Like I'm doing something new. This is an adventure. It's like the same, similar, but it's a different, more positive way of like viewing that
Yeah.
situation, which is
That's a good
interesting,
point.
right?
It's the same physiological experience, but it's what your brain does with it, right?
Right, exactly.
100%.
Yeah.
I'm so excited that you had the bravery and the let's do this, the gumption, Duane, to jump on to this chat like a short hour and a half ish after you and I chatted this morning. Your work is awesome. You are still teaching. It's funny how a teacher is a teacher. Well, because you've taught us and you're teaching people through this call. So you are still teaching. Don't stop chasing what you're chasing. I'm excited about the books and what you may or may not be doing with them in the future. Thanks for affording us the time today. Shout out to Lance for joining and for being such a good business partner and dad that even though his kid was homesick, he tried to make this work. He started it, he hosted it, and then went off to do his dad thing. And Erin, always applause for you and for your fine words. Why don't you wrap us up today, Erin? I'm going to be quiet and you sign us off.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, this has been a really good like chat to like thank you, Duane, for joining us. Like we've had these AMAs for a few weeks now. You're the first to have joined us officially, our inaugural guest. So that's
Oh,
really
thank you.
exciting and yeah, great to have you. It's been great to hear more about like your process, and your experience through publishing and, the, pitfalls and, learning moments. And I think that's been valuable for us as well as hopefully for, anyone that's tuned into this AMA as well.
I hope it's been helpful. Yeah.
Yeah.
There's no easy answer to all of this stuff that we're doing other than it's heart and mind. It is love and logic. It is do the work and then continue to do the work. You know, that is the secret sauce. You get lucky sometimes, you surround yourself with the right people, you create some magic, opportunity happens. But at the end of the day, it's an amazing idea, it's amazing art. You continue to try to improve on that. And then you find the mindset to go back to rule number one, which is just keep going.
And thanks for your sharing too. I learned a lot as well, you guys. Thanks.
You're very welcome. All right. Well, we'll be back next Wednesday, hopefully with another guest. And Duane, you and I will be in touch, and we're going to have that value session dropping next Wednesday. So I will share the link. Until then, stay well, fail fast. Erin?
Fail hard.
Thank you very much.
Bye,
Bye.
guys.
Bye.
Bye.